Good evening. In a desperate bid to get Queensland's books back in the black, the state government has confirmed it will sell part or all of our electricity network. It's looking for partners who'll swap government debt for a share of our electricity bill, but not before an election.
After 3 years fighting to put Queensland back on track, the Treasurer says we've simply run out of choices.
We believe that the strongest choice, the smartest choice, is the sale or lease of some assets.
On the lease list, the ports of Townsville and Gladstone, we're selling Sunwater and generators Stanwell and CS Energy, while we'll share Powerlink, Ergon and Energex with whoever wants to take on their debt in exchange for a slice of every power bill in Queensland. It's a deal never offered in Australia before today.
The total amount of the revenue generated by these companies is just over, if I recall correctly, is just over 2% of the total revenue of the state.
What Queensland gets is to retain the ownership of the electricity companies plus any taxes. Dividends, currently about $1 billion a year, would have to be shared, perhaps halved. But the government has final say on prices, and that's the deal that got the privatisation-doubting Premier across the line.
Government ownership is no guarantee of lower prices, and it certainly hasn't been the experience here in Queensland.
Unions aren't so sure.
What we're likely to see is significant job cuts. We're likely to see electricity prices further increase.
The assets represent 11.6% or $33 billion worth of the state's total $291 billion worth of assets. So the cupboard isn't bare. Of the $33 billion, $25 billion goes straight to paying off debt, leaving $8.6 billion to spend, and we'll decide how to spend it. The Strong Choices campaign will shift into phase 2, a $5 million campaign where Queenslanders tell the government how we want our money used, with the Bat Tunnel, new dams and the Toowoomba bypass already on the drawing board.
We think it's money well spent, and at $5 million it's slightly less than a half a day's interest.
The result is debt of around $55 billion, saving us around $1.3 billion in interest every year.
On reducing that $80 billion worth of debt will be $25 billion, and that will really free up a lot more of the opportunities to invest in the infrastructure in the future.
None of the asset sales are factored into this year's budget. There'll be a $2.2 billion deficit, turning to an $862 million surplus, the first in a decade next year, and $500 million the year after that. Unemployment is at 6%, falling only slightly to 5.5% by 2016. The government is aiming for 4%.
We continue to work hard to reduce the unemployment rate to 4%.
Next year is a boom year for LNG as those projects come online, powering Queensland's economy from 3% economic growth to 6% before falling to 4% in 2016. We're still paying off cyclones Yazi, Oswald and Ita to the tune of $5.6 billion this year alone. Revenue's down $1 billion because coal prices are down. As predicted, pensioner and senior discounts will lose around 15%, the final figure known in October, and you can blame Joe Hockey. But worse is coming when federal funding for hospitals and schools evaporates in 2017 and 2018, when Queensland will be left holding the baby. That's why the government is making long-term plans. Asset sales could take 6 years, and only if the government wins the next election.
We're not going to go to a fire sale of assets. We are going to very carefully manage the process to ensure we get the maximum value for Queenslanders.
Live now to state political editor Shane Doherty. Shane, is this budget a political winner?
Well, Melissa, the government has two huge problems. It's broke, and electricity prices were sending us broke. The Treasurer, after years of cutbacks and sackings, has managed to put hope back on the horizon and given his government something to sell. Expect the Premier to announce a date for the by-election in Stafford any day now, and it remains to be seen whether his Treasurer has given him a fighting chance. Melissa?
All right, Shane, thank you.